Good evening and welcome to a joint planning and development subcommittee town council meeting. It's Wednesday evening, March 12th at 6:15 p.m. in the year 2025. We're in the Veterans Meeting Room. It's possible a quorum of the town council may be present and discuss the agenda items, but voting rights shall be limited to subcommittee members in attendance. That was agenda item number 1, the call to order. Item number 2, roll call. Councilor Kelly.
Present.
Councilor Marquetti.
Present.
Citizen member LaRochelle is excused. Citizen member Bernadone is absent at this point. We have a quorum. Very good. Item number 3, review, discuss, recommending approval of the CDBG fiscal year 22-23 funded housing rehabilitation project number 2 contract between the town and property owners for $46,985 and allow the town manager to sign all related paperwork. Entertain a motion to recommend town council for approval.
Motion.
Second.
Very good.
I came up, but you probably don't have any questions because you've been through this before. It's our second project. We have everything lined up
Yep.
with contractors, so hopefully you don't have any questions for me and we can move forward. Do you have any?
Any questions at the table?
I just have one.
Go ahead, Councilor Kelly.
This is money that we already have, right? We've actually, the money has been given to us and we're holding the money.
It is in the state coffers to the best of our understanding, and we draw it down
Do we know
as
where the
it's
state
spent.
gets the money from?
It is federal funding.
Thank you. My only concern is that all of a sudden the money dries up and we don't have the money to pay this.
I think we're all concerned about the same thing, but this isn't something that they've gone after. I think it might be, this is an opinion, that it might be further down on the list of funding that they're going to target. But right now, I can double check pay. Also, that we haven't had any reason to believe that they'll be cutting this funding. That's,
Yeah, we've been given no indication from the state at this time, and so we have an executed contract with Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities to commit the 800, or this round is $1.65 million, and we're sort of just heating up with this grant round to spend down these funds. Well, I don't remember who it was, but someone had said that they feel like the block grant is safe at this time.
I think it was me, just because it seems like they're going after one area or agency for federal funding at a time. And this is something that's been in place for a long time. It achieves multiple objectives. And it has already been given to the state of Massachusetts.
And with all due respect, Sue, I think it was somebody at the state level that I was speaking to that was saying that they thought, yeah.
More credible than me.
Yeah.
So you think the state actually has the funding then, has the funds in hand?
No, it's definitely what's called a pass-through.
Uh-huh.
As a pass-through, as we spend the money, I could clarify with the state whether or not they're holding the funds. I don't know how it works, whether HUD gives them the money in advance or whether they draw it down as we draw it down. So we have it set up as a reimbursable grant. But I'm happy to ask them if it would ease your minds.
I think it would be worth finding out.
Sure.
Because, I mean, if the money's already in the state coffers, I'm secure with it. That seems pretty secure. At this point, though, if the federal government is still holding that money that has to go into the state coffers, you know, I based on what's going on in the world, I would say that there's no guarantee we'll ever get it.
And if I may, Sue, through you, Chair, we do write all of our contracts to state that all funding is contingent on our grants, so that the contractor, can't hold us if we lose our funding.
Okay.
And
I guess I didn't read that in here, but I'll take your word for it.
And we might be able to get an answer to that question before the next town council meeting. So if there was a provision to your recommendation to approve it, contingent on there actually being funds at the state level, that might help us move things forward. We need to demonstrate to the state that we are able to fulfill all the grant requirements and get this work done.
Okay. Questions at the table? Council Marquetti.
So just to follow up on that through you, Mr. Chairman, so is the money paid up front for the work or after they're done?
We can't pay any money until after the work is
It's
done.
done. Okay, and so then this is also for, this is for low income, a low income resident,
Yes,
and it's the same as the last one.
yep,
They have what, is it 15 years to, before it's
yes.
completely forgiven? All right, thank you.
Also at the table. Councilor Shania, then Councilor Lazo.
I kind of have the same question that Councilor Kelly brought up. And the reason my concerns are is if we go into contract with somebody to start the work and they doing the work, halfway done or even completed, and they decide to pull the money back, who's gonna be on the hook for it? Because if you look at what's going on, they're threatening school lunches. They've taken our forestry money away, that we were already into it, so they pulled that money away and we had to lay somebody off. And so I'm concerned that the liability the town may have, the state, if the contractor comes here, does the work in good faith, and then when it comes time for payment, the federal government decides they're gonna pull the money. Is there something, and maybe you said that, is there something that we can put in the contract that protects the town from not being liable for the money if the federal government pulls it?
Well, it wouldn't be very nice for the contractor, would it, if they did the work? I think the, one of the best ideas is to wait to see if the state can give us any sense of a guarantee that the funds are there, so that you're confident that you're not going to spend money that will never be reimbursed for. And we're confident that we're not going to hire a contractor knowing we may or may not be able to pay them. This is a difficult decision because we're on a time schedule, but we don't want to rush ahead and make choices that'll cost
Well,
the town to return
if I may continue, my question was, is there something we can put in the contract that protects the town in the event that the money is pulled and the contract don't get paid? Because if the state or town or the federal government pulls the money, he's done the work, I don't want to come out of town's taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
So,
And Peg has her hand up probably about the part of the contract.
Oh, wait for
Hold
the
on,
chair.
hold on. The manager would like to speak. We'll let the manager speak and then we'll work our way around. Go ahead.
First off, we can't stop working based on the federal government.
Correct.
I get the concerns, right? We have a contract with the state has said we're guaranteed this, this is the money earmarked. If it's like the urban forestry grant, they said any contracts that you have currently under contract, we will honor, anything future is pulled back.
That's right.
So they've honored everything that we have under contract, so that's why we would wanna get it under contract, that's the language. I think there would be massive lawsuits if all these towns had things under contract, and they said, now we're not gonna fund it. They were very clear that we are not doing anything new, but anything you have under contract, tell us what it is and how much you expect for reimbursement. So I would go along that same lines. It is a scary period of time, but you have to honor the contracts, and that's what they were doing. So I would believe that that's the way they would proceed. And I haven't heard anything differently from, there's been no indication from MMA or any other agencies or colleagues that I know that will do CDBG in other communities, that there's been any indication that this funding has been targeted as of yet. And they're moving forward. I know there's a project in Palmer. They're getting under contract for $1 million water line that they're not stopping because it's gonna be under contract. So I feel confident going forward with this and moving along. Because we can't stop doing what we need to do.
No, and I understand that.
And as long as we get it under contract, I think that's why it's the important thing to get the stuff under contract.
Okay, Councilor Lazo.
Jack, I was gonna say what Jack said. Contract, lock it in, they're not interested in pulling the carpet out from under you, but they're not gonna give you any more if they stop the program. But anything under contract is like locking it in. Ditto.
Very good. Ms. Dean?
Yes, so I too would have said something similar to what the town manager said, and to the Councilor Chenier's request about making sure that there is language. I apologize if I didn't catch that there isn't language in the contract that states, contingent on grant funding, but we'll be, let's add that, Sue, because it is standard language in our office, because everything we do is contingent on grant funding. It sounds cold, yes, government can be cold, but we need to protect ourselves. And so we make sure that that language is in there despite, going forward with the contractor. So I personally don't think it should be a difficult decision. I think the town should be confident once the contract is executed.
Okay. Anyone else? Very good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed?
I came late, so.
Okay. And one abstention. Very good. Motion passes 301. Let the record show that Captain Bernadone arrived at 6:16. Okay, item number 4, review, discuss applying for the fiscal year 26 municipal vulnerability preparedness action grant in the amount of, to be determined, to assess public and private dams and levees in Southbridge and allow the town manager to sign all related paperwork. Entertain a motion to recommend to town council for approval.
So,
Second.
Okay, Katie?
Yeah, so first off, I apologize, we don't yet have a cost estimate. We are waiting for Beals and Thomas, who helped with our previous hazard mitigation plan. They're recommending us to another dam and levee assessment expert, and once they have a list of our dam and levee priorities, they're gonna give us some more of an idea of what it will cost to assess the risks of these dams and give us feedback. And so this application for the MVP grant, there's sort of 2 different levels. There's this level, which is sort of planning and assessments. And you need to have this in order to plan for, or to apply for a second round, which you could then get more of the implementation project money. So yeah.
If I could just build on Katie's initial opening, what might be a strategy, because remembering this is just applying for the grant, this is not actually entering into a contract with anyone. If you came up with a ballpark figure not to exceed for the application, then if we were awarded, what Katie could do is then what she plans to do at that time is then go out for a competitive RFP among a couple of experts in that field and see who comes in at the lowest price. And that's pretty standard how we would approach it. So all of these numbers in the beginning are sort of, ballpark cost estimates. It's unfortunate we don't have something, but, even if you'd said, 200, and then hoped that it came in much less, that might be a way to approach it, if by Monday she doesn't have a cost estimate. But otherwise, we are in the window of needing to apply by X date, and it's before the next town council meeting. So that's why we're coming to you.
Okay, Councilor Kelly.
So is this kind of a grant that we would have to come up with matching funds if we were awarded the grant?
Yes, there's a 10% match, but that could be in-kind staff hours or actual funds, or a combination of both.
So I mean, I guess we don't really have any idea how much this was actually could cost the town at this point, right? I mean, we're saying we have some matching. We're going to have some kind of matching contribution to whatever, if the grant is awarded to us. But right now, we don't have anything before us that would indicate what our potential exposure would be on that.
So if I would,
Hey, why don't you come up?
Sorry. So my suggested strategy might be, if you were to apply and say all of the match was in kind, and if you were to suggest a number to them, that might be the ceiling. And then if we get awarded, we work out the details where, is $20,000 of in-kind realistic, or do we have to ask the town for money? If at that time they don't want to go forward, then we can rescind the award. We don't necessarily have to take it. Unfortunately, some of these things are a little messy trying to get them through, as you all know. There's different strategies to trying to position ourselves. But Katie had been trying for the last few months to kind of, get information to move forward. And the person at the EEA office, unfortunately, was, I was originally actually trying to get a hold of the EEA office to learn more, and I wasn't getting responses. Lo and behold, his responses were going into my junk mail. And so, yeah, we were spending, unfortunately, wasted time early on not getting the information we need. And then finally, in the last month, Katie's really been digging in and finding out what she needs. So we apologize that we don't have all the information. So that would be my suggestion. Choose a ceiling, do in kind.
You all set? Mm-hmm. All set?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, didn't we already do an entire study that was presented by the fire chief at the last town council meeting? And I was reading that document and had every single dam in town and the condition that they are in.
That's the hazard mitigation plan?
Right. So what would be the point of this if we already have all that information?
I'll defer to Peg, because she was very integral on the hazardous. I know the chief didn't mention her at the meeting, but Peg attended every single meeting of the hazard mitigation plan. Out of anybody in our town hall, she would have a lot of information on that and would be able to answer that.
So one of the suggestions from the chief last year was to apply for this grant. We were going forward. And then there was a FEMA opportunity that superseded his this first option. The FEMA opportunity would have been more staff time though. So it would have committed a lot of staff hours, and he decided he couldn't commit those hours and therefore passed on the FEMA opportunity. At that point, it was too late for this MVP opportunity, so we lost both chances. And the reason we would want to go forward is, yes, there are high-level mentions in the MVP about the dams and levees, but what we want is a deep dive into what the condition of each are, both public and private. This has been advocated for by, Pam Paquin was a champion for this years ago when she first started volunteering on the planning board, and people heard her loud and clear. It became subject of not just the municipal vulnerability planning, but then the hazard mitigation workshops. So it keeps bubbling up as what was the comment from the EEA when they finally looked at our dam list?
Oh, wow, you have a lot of dams.
Oh, wow, we have a lot of dams. So, yes, dams, right. So it should be something that we focus on now. And especially when we're hearing, when there's potential for changing FEMA's approach to disasters where, we as a state may become more responsible for our own disasters. How can we be proactive in our town about making sure that we're not put up against unexpected hazards, unexpected consequences?
So you don't know at this point how much the grant is for?
No, and like I said, I would, between now and Monday, if we don't get a number, on Monday, I would suggest you go for something like a $200,000 request.
We could amend that too, to add with any match being in kind to the
Yes.
actual motion.
Yes.
In front of the amendment, and then that way it's very clear that it's in kind and we're not putting any dollar match.
Okay.
Because I think we could articulate $20,000 worth of staff time between fire, police, planning,
Get your rubber boots.
and all the work that has been done, I think. So.
Okay. Ms. Clemens?
Yes, that was my question because no number had been thrown out. So I assumed you had something in mind. It sounded like you were going towards that area. So you stated it, each unit not to exceed for any pitching or probably not to exceed, and then with the matching. I think the suggestion by the town manager was good. So that was it, just a Nobody had talked the number yet, so I was waiting for them.
We don't,
Or you,
unfortunately,
Council Marquetti,
if I make through you, Chair, we just don't have them.
Kelly, yeah.
right, okay.
Okay. Council Shannon.
Can I ask a question, general question is, it seems like a lot of times I come to meetings or council meetings, we're always under the gun, where we have to meet it by a certain date, otherwise we don't get it. Can I ask you why we get into that position? Is it because,
I'm gonna say that that's not under the agenda item, and we'll discuss that at a
well, she
future
talked
point in
about
time.
it at, saying that we.
No,
were under the gun.
I'll respond to
You
that.
respond to that?
We have a lot of projects.
That's
Right.
We have a lot of projects, and grant opportunities come up, and we try to mingle and match and hazard mitigation, and we have this grant, and we're waiting for information, we're trying to put it together. Believe me, we don't wanna come up last minute, and we try to do a better job of it, but when we're managing, we tried to spend a lot of time on a raise grant that kind of moves something to that, then you move into the next grant period, and you gotta remember too, we have a lot of reporting requirements that we have to do, this office, so when you're trying to put everything together, we're trying to do the best we can. I will definitely strive to be better, that we're not under the gun, but sometimes things pop up. Previous meeting, tractors, I wasn't gonna talk about tractors, but it came up, and then you have to look at timing and when do things have to go in? And do we seize the moment or do we just ignore it? You know, we could simply say, never mind, believe me, they have enough on their plate that we could say, no, we have too many things, but we're trying to build programs to protect the town and try to get as much money, grant money as we can, and juggle those things. So, but we will try to endeavor to not bring it last minute.
Chairman Lasso.
I'm guilty of being one of the guys that backs everything that comes out of P&D, because as Jack says, we have projects. I commend the council, the subcommittee, and the whole council for taking these on as fast as they're thrown at us. As far as I'm concerned, keep bringing it. And if we got pressure on us, we can handle it. This council will take whatever you got. If it's good for the town of Southbridge, we got it. We'll catch it, we'll deal with it at subcommittee. And I commend Councilor Shinya earlier. Bring it directly to the council, the 3 lawnmowers, because, you know, we didn't have time, and there are no more lawnmower DOT, bought 50 of them. The situation creates how quick do we need this done? And I gotta tell you something, we are on the move in so many different departments, DPW, finance, everything. Computers, renovation of the town hall, dog kennel, bidding laws, procurement laws. This council takes it all on and let's get it done. We're doing a good job at it, and if there's a problem, we have a great line of communication. I'm a phone call away from Jack with his department heads, the council. I see you on a daily basis. See Johnny, Marquetti. Let's keep it going. We're on a roll. Thank you.
Good. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present.
Mr. Chairman, I will include that language in the motion
Thank
as
you.
we talked about.
Item number 5, review discuss entering into an agreement with Timeless Beauty Bar at 16 Hamilton Street for $1,250 using CDBG fiscal year 22-23 commercial rehab funds to provide a sign at 16 Hamilton Street and allow the town manager to sign all related paperwork. Entertain a motion to recommend to town council for approval.
Motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
No,
Mr. Manager?
to defer. It's just it's a sign.
This is just a sign? Okay, any discussion at the table? Up there? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Very good. Item number 6, review, discuss approval to enter into a contract with Nancy Selvage for $15,000 in response to the town's call for art funded by the New England Foundation for the Arts, and allow the town manager to sign all related paperwork. Entertain a motion to recommend to town council for approval. Is there a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Very good, we have a motion and a second. We start with the manager.
You referred it back to your subcommittee. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this. This
Okay.
is referred back to you guys to have further discussion, so.
Very good. Okay. It's my understanding that people had a question about the nature of the artwork involved. We have this evening Ms. Selvage, is that correct?
Yes, would you?
Great.
welcome
Would
her?
you please come on up and say hello?
And in case it's useful, I'll bring a couple of photographs.
Great. If you would describe for us what your artwork is and what your intentions are with the town and that sort of thing.
Yes, this is a project that I made for a temporary exhibition last spring. And it was exhibited for 3 months in Concord, Massachusetts. And it was part of an exhibition where artists were communicating with scientists and thinking about climate issues. And I was paired with a scientist who was growing seaweed in Vietnam. And this particular seaweed, if a tiny bit was fed to cattle, a tiny percentage was added to the cattle's diet, they would not burp methane. The burping of the methane would be greatly reduced. Anyway, so I decided that if cattle can change their diet, then people can change their diet too. So I thought I made a sculpture that's in the shape of a footprint, and on the surface of it, students and children primarily collaborated and added adhesive vinyl leaves to the surface of this footprint. And on the vinyl leaves, they made a pledge to change their diet, to reduce their carbon footprint, but they added other things too. But I put this little line on it, and they followed the line, and at the end of the show, there was foliage all over it. And when I heard about the call for Southbridge, I thought I had made this sculpture hoping there would be another opportunity for it. And when I heard about Southbridge needing a sculpture for a trailhead where people were going to go stepping out, this was called Step Up. But stepping out, let's go, I thought it would be an unusually appropriate opportunity for this footprint sculpture. This is large enough so people can walk through it. In this particular setting, the cutouts from making this were set in the ground as footprints. And in the proposal that I did for Southbridge, I did not include those because this was a temporary show. It worked well to embed these into the ground. I wasn't sure how that would work in a freeze-thaw situation. But given one of the concerns I heard about the sculpture, I think that it probably would be important to include these footprints because they would reinforce the meaning of the sculpture. And then there would be community, instead of using footprints as foliage and leaves, as had been done in that project. Since this is connected to a trailhead, the idea would be to use footprints in a different way. And in my original proposal, I was just thinking about footprints and different people, tracing their footprint, putting the tread pattern on an adhesive vinyl thing that gets adhered to the sculpture actually, these adhesive vinyl things last for over a year. So there could be a new community program every year. They could be taken off and a new group of kids could make something. But there's another option for participating in this. And many years ago, I had done a project where people stepped. You could pass these around. Maybe I should pass these around. I made a bunch of stepping stones where kids stepped into clay and had their footprint, and they erased half of it, and then they chose a leaf that was important to them. And the workshop was accompanied by talking about the oak leaves versus linden leaves and different connotations for leaves. And so they impressed a leaf pattern next to part of their shoe pattern for these stepping stones. And the same could be done with workshops. Oh, yes. With these vinyl adhesive things that could go on the sculpture.
Nancy?
Our call for art, can you speak to why you thought it spoke to our call for art, like our history or culture or anything like that?
Because of it being connected with a trailhead and being a footprint. I mean, it could serve as an entrance to the trailhead. People could pass through. Step up, let's go.
Okay.
Oh, actually, the first idea was that if there were just these vinyl footprints, trail aspirations could be part of putting your footprint on it. For instance, you could say, race you to Dudley or something like that, or off for bird watching or whatever. So it would be connected to the passage to the trail.
Okay. Discussion from the table first, and then we'll go out to the audience. Anyone at the table? Councilman Kennedy.
So, my idea for that area of the rail trail, because it is on an old Southbridge Railroad line, and that is where, and if you thought I would pass this around if you'd like to see it, my idea would be to have something that honors the history of Southbridge. The old railroad line, Worcester Providence Railroad line, that was the major mode of transportation for residents of Southbridge, beginning in about the middle of the 1800s all the way to the 1930s. Town manager, if you'd like one. So, my feeling is that we should honor the history of Southbridge and put something there like a kiosk, something that tells the story of the Southbridge branch. It could be something that shows pictures of the old railroad cars, passenger rails, the old Southbridge branch map. Residents used to take the line from Southbridge and they would go all the way to Connecticut. They would go to Webster, Connecticut, then all the way to Providence and Boston. And that, to me, is something that tells the story of the railroad line where the rail trail is going to be situated on. So that's why I felt, I mean no disrespect to the redevelopment authority. I know that they put this out and they did a good job and they did the best job they can, but I would rather see something like this where we celebrate the history of Southbridge. To me, that doesn't celebrate any history in Southbridge. I don't know what that is. But I also thought it'd be kind of cool to have the box car that's behind the R&B, something like that cleaned up, brought down there. The tracks are still there. They could clean it up. Once the R&B is gone, we could clean it up, make it open for kids to go inside, see what that was like. Or even if we could find a old passenger car that we could put there. I would certainly be willing to do the investigative work to find out as much as I can about the old Southbridge branch, and find the artwork, find the history of it the best I can. And I would also be willing to help try to find some more funding for something like this. I think it's important that we try to remember Southbridge's history and not forget it. It seems like too many people, they want to somehow disintegrate our history. And I think Southbridge history is very fascinating. I've always felt it was very fascinating, and that's what I would like to do with that area. Thank you.
Anyone else at the table? Catherine?
I agree with Councilor Marquetti about having something rich in Southbridge history, or even having, if not just with the car, I love that idea, I think it's wonderful, but also to have someone from Southbridge, an artist from here, or maybe the Southbridge Art Department in the high school or something, have them participate or something, but have it something local and to embrace our history, which I think is important, especially on a rail trail, because walking through, I think that would be amazing to see the Southbridge branch and see an old car, or at least have photos and a brief history of our town. I think, especially for people who are coming from out of town, walking through the trails and stuff, they'll be like, wow, this is pretty cool history of Southbridge.
Anyone else at the table? Councilor Montigny, I think you were up first. No? Okay. Councilor Shandy.
I think Councilor.
Did you have your hand up? Did you have your hand up?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So
Councilor
I think we're here to really vote on this particular project that's before us. I'm not discounting the idea that Councilor Marquetti came up with, but we're here really to vote on whether we go forward with the project that has been recommended by Planning and Redevelopment Authority. And I think that's either an up or down vote, one way or the other. If we don't particularly want to go forward with this as a body, then we need to make that vote. If we do, then, follow the Planning and Development Authority's recommendation, then we move forward with it. But I don't think, whether or not, what else we do with this is really something we should be discussing here at this meeting. I think we either make an up and down vote on this particular project, and if we vote no, then we can go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Very good.
Well, we just had an agenda item where we didn't know the cost, and you wanted the cost added, so
Okay,
that wasn't part of that agenda either.
we're good. We're good. Councilor Shandy.
I guess I'm the one that started this process to come back here. I made a motion to refer it back to a subcommittee for further discussion. And the reason I did that morning, the night of the presentation was first, and I voted in favor of it. I'm in Boston every other month. I go down to Brigham and Woman, and I go to Dana-Farber, and I go by Vast Fine Arts, and I see all the different sculptures that are shown out on some of the colleges and that kind of stuff. And I look at even what's at the library, the medals, art is in the eyes of the beholder. And I was all in favor of it. The morning of the council, I spoke to Scott about it. I said, yeah, I'm for it. I don't have a problem with it. I got home, and I've got to say that I've never really gotten so many comments, either through social media, texts, or emails. And I said, wow, I guess people are paying attention. Shame on me for not coming to the redevelopment authority meetings to learn more about what the sculpture was about. I kind of agree with Councilor Marquetti. I don't have a problem with this moving forward, to be honest with you, but I would like something there to talk about the history of the community, the rail trail, the rails where that trail is coming down. If we remember one time I went to a historical commission meeting, and a lady left there crying because the Hikers Monument wasn't going to be down by the building. And I was at another meeting, they talked about concrete design and those kind of things that were kind of a matter of a subject. So, if they want to move forward with this, you guys want to move forward with this, it comes to council. I don't have a problem with that. I would just like maybe to let Peg and her department knows when they go for those grants, to consider something more, the history of Southbridge than what we were getting, that's all.
Okay. Well, it's my understanding that this is going forward to council again. The question is does this subcommittee move it forward with a positive or a negative recommendation, or no recommendation whatsoever?
Right.
So we'll be moving forward. Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Rivas, and then Peg.
I agree with Councilor Marquetti on the historical values of the rail. And I think if you look at the rail trail, okay, and now I've been from one end to the other, and Florence Chandler put a train on the tracks there for the historical value at the depot, which is the Registry of Motor Vehicles. As we speak, town manager, myself, and a Councilor Ortiz have been working diligently to keep the registry in town. They're gonna move out of that building at some point. The historical stuff can happen at the same time as the artwork. I am not an artist. I look at something, I see it for what I think it looks like. But when you look at the historical, you wanna mesh everything together. There's enough rail. I mean, behind Crane Street, there's a big flat when the rail comes out of the woods. There's a big flat spot there. And I know that Dave McCarthy is doing a lot of work to his backside of his building. Different ideas, different stuff. The train station is the historical area. We should be restoring the train and put a, I don't know, somebody said a restaurant or whatever into the rail station, or even a community center of some sort to promote the history of the town. But this is a little corner on Central Street that I didn't think it looked that bad. And I said, well, I'm gonna vote for it. And in looking at it, if somebody has a problem with that piece, that's one thing. But to pit the history against that is not the right maneuver. And I agree with some of the people here. We have an arts council. We have a historical society. Maybe they should have a little more input with some of the stuff that we're doing on the rail. Because you know the historical society is going to be about the history of Southbridge. You know our arts council is going to be about the arts. There's no reason why everybody can't put it together. The rail is miles long. And on those different rail, down by the Golden Greek, there's openings. There's areas where you can do other things. My question is, that little postage stamp area, would that be the place to put a piece of art? I'm not sure that would fit where we're talking when the rail trail comes through. Because it's gonna come by the ice cream stand, it's gonna cross Foster, now it's gonna go into a small area towards Central. But I mean, the planning and development of that area, we've got a TIPS project, we got a restaurant district idea on Central Street. There's so much work going on down there, and I think we can work it all in together. I'm not gonna pit his idea against her idea. I think I want both ideas. How you develop it and where you put it, that's why we have planning and development. And that's why it's at this subcommittee. If I was to give this committee a recommendation as a counselor, let's do both. If we have another location somewhere on the rail, I just thought that was a nice area to put out the TIPS project going on. And then when some people said something about the idea of it, and I looked at the library. Again, I'm not an artsy person, but when you drive by, you see the steel statue there. You see different things. We have an idea of putting a man-sized chessboard on the front lawn and you play chess. Why not Southbridge? That's all I'm gonna tell you. I think we're in the right place. I think we got the right idea. I just think we have to be working all these ideas together. Be happy that everybody wants to be here, making this place a destination. It's no longer a dead town. We're coming alive, we're doing our roads, sidewalks, buildings. Let's keep going. We can make both of these work.
Okay, Councilor Rivas.
Yes, I appreciate the kind of the addition about the footprints. I think that is a great adjustment, an added piece to sort of put it in context. I tend to agree with Councilor Lazo, which is rare.
A rare occasion.
That we could do both, and I guess my question to Ms. Dean is, if we vote this down, then we don't get this funding? And then my second question, are we able to sort of seek more funding to be able to do the project that Councilor Marquetti was talking about?
Ms. Dean, and then,
So we already have if we haven't received the last 3,000, we already have the majority of it in the bank because we met milestones throughout the grant. I think I mentioned that in the last subcommittee. So we would have to we'd have to return the funds to this nonprofit agency. These are not tax dollars. This is not a public grant. This is from the New England Foundation for the Arts. So we would be starting those funds back. I also want to emphasize that we committed in the call for art that it would be in this location at 76 Central as temporary art for 18 months. We could, in theory, move it after 18 months. And so after the last town council meeting, that was one of the first things I wanted to bring to the subcommittee, was the idea that if that's not the final home or resting place for this sculpture, you start it there, and then there are, as you've mentioned, Chairman Lazo, you find one of the better suited locations for it in the future, once we've gotten through the construction of the rail trail. But this needs to be installed by June. That pocket park is complete. The rail trail is not. We would interfere in construction if we were to try to place it on the rail trail at this time, or to try to enter into an agreement with a private party like you all or something like that might be a little more complicated. So this is a way for us to be able to secure what we think is going to be a long-lived sculpture because of its material, and put it somewhere else.
Ms. Morrissey?
Thank you. I'd just like to refer back to how this whole thing started. About a year ago, Peg and I both independently signed up for this grant opportunity because we both saw the advantages of it. It was like a class. We had to do a certain number of contact hours and stuff like that. We got the funding. And we were able to attract a really world-class piece for $15,000. Who knows how much $15,000 goes for any kind of a project these days, especially something that's stainless steel. I hate to demean your piece, Nancy, by putting a figure on it, but I was amazed that we could actually get a piece of stainless steel that was designed by somebody who has a large reputation in the art world, and to have it here in Southbridge. It'll connect Southbridge to every other piece that she has throughout Massachusetts and beyond. And I think that's particularly interesting. We're creating history. And I think I can say that I am passionate about the history of Southbridge. I've spent 30 years of my career here stewarding the history when I think it's an important thing, but I also see that there's a context for things, and we are also making history, and we should be mindful of that. And what I would really like to emphasize is the process. We followed the process. We did our homework, mostly Peg, and we attended the classes and did all that. We advertised extensively, and I can share the list. Boston Sculpture, Worcester State has that place on Sagamore Road. They have a sculpture place there, and there were individuals that we connected with as well. We offered this opportunity to people. People knew about it.
And our local Wells Art Center.
Oh, absolutely. There was 2 people actually from the Ruth Wells Center for the Arts who were involved in the selection committee. We had a list of, I think, about 10 people we honed it down to, actually. And that included a representative from the Cultural Council, Ted Bartlett, and we also had a trustee of the library who happens to be I hope I'm describing this correctly. Her title is, she's the curator of the Fidelity International Art Collection. Her name is Liz Golds. And she wrote a letter recommending Nancy Selvidge's work. So I think what we need to do here is to have people participate, and at the beginning, not at the 11th hour, to Councillor Chenier's point here, why things are being kind of railroaded through. We followed the process, but now we are at a time where we have to make a decision. There's no time to go back. I think the money has to be rescinded, because we're lucky that this piece is already fabricated, and it already has had some provenance showing in Concord, Massachusetts. A very historic place. I don't think anybody would deny that. So I think we need to, if we're going to do things like look for public comment and feedback, I think we should do it early on in the process and invite everybody to sit at the table. I do encourage people to actually participate in person and to ask questions. I think that's really valuable. But I also see that that was abrogated in this whole process. We found it difficult to, get people to come to the table. And I just think at this stage we need to decide I did listen to the recording of the town council, and I was actually dismayed to see that it was coming back to committee, seeing as it had already been approved by the subcommittee that it was brought forward to and was being proposed to town council. So here we are. What are we going to do? My proposal would be, or if I have a right to even make a recommendation, but as the person who has spent 30 years of her career here looking after the history of the community the best I can, I am saying I would like to have this piece of art. It will tie us into a much bigger whole. It'll connect us with other art, and we have an opportunity down the road for CMRPC to actually make a map of all the art that we have here, and that be an opportunity to get people to come to this community to look at the art. And the more people that we can get who are named artists and recognisable, it will only enhance that. So thank you for your time.
Very good.
I defer to Peg.
You prefer to pay?
Oh, just, I was sort of bubbling up as Councilor Marquetti was talking about all his great ideas. These feel like two very discrete conversations, as the chairman mentioned. We should contact Joel Cohn Landscaping, because he is the one who's been subcontracted by BSC Group to design the R&B portion of the rail trail. And there are plans at the Historical Commission's request to honor the hiker monument with a metal silhouette of the hiker monument there, and to, we're hoping, depending on funding, to be able to restore part of the caboose?
The depot.
The caboose, the little train that's
the
there.
caboose, yeah.
And Joe actually has his own dreams for all of us. He would like to see the caboose as part of the building and used as, like you're talking about, maybe opened up. So, in a separate conversation, we should get an update on what the plans are for that section of the rail trail, because that will be happening this summer.
Ms. Christoph?
I'm a member of the redevelopment authority that worked with Peg to secure the art and follow the process. So I just want to reiterate, I agree that we should honor the history of the town, but we also have to look to the town's future as well. I believe when Mark Karen served with the redevelopment, he spoke of plans for the depot and the caboose to honor the history of the rail trail. And I can see that as a really good draw for the rail trail. But again, this is a small piece off to the side, and I concur with Councilor Lazo that we can do both. That we can look forward for the history, but we also can look for the future. And Margaret's point, we had a lot of initial negative comment when we started the mural 2 years ago. And that is just such a beautiful, vibrant piece that adds to our community. And again, it's connected to the artist. It's a unique piece of art that is connected to an artist that has murals in Boston and around New England and internationally. And people who, again, will come to see the art. And it's not in a museum. It's here in our town. So again, this piece of art is connected to a wider grouping of art, and if we have more art installations, it may be an additional draw besides our history, in addition to our history, but also relative to the future as well.
And you'd also talked about the rubric, how it's a pre-selected rubric, and although we have local artists.
Right, part of our process and following the process, as Margaret was saying as well, is we enlisted a citizen comment there was a rubric that was developed in advance of the art even being received. We had no idea what art we might find or be offered, but we had a rubric as to how are we going to judge this? Are we going to, if we have to compare completely different or disparate pieces of art, how do we make a judgment? We're not experts, we're just citizens serving the community. So we had a rubric that said, okay, does it do this, this, or this? How does it do it? How does it do it? Does it do this, this, or this? And we have that citizen, like a little subcommittee or an advisory committee, again, with members of
the cultural council, the library board of trustees. One of our members on the redevelopment is also active in the historical society. So we've had a lot of input, and a lot of citizens who may not have spoken out on social media had input into this. And we solicited that input, and we listened to it. And this piece of art scored the highest on the rubrics that were used to judge the artworks. And so therefore, it shows that we're not just manipulating the system to, to not be impartial. Our job is to be impartial and to work in the best interest of the whole town. And I feel that we did that. And I'm really anxious to see this go forward, to see the pocket park. I know there's some concern about stainless steel, but I also see that there are little trees already being planted that will provide a shady spot. This will provide a place where they've had their ice cream, they've got a little extra energy, and they might climb on, have something to climb on, or climb through, or just lean on, or play around. It's just a small place, and again, it leads them the next step to the depot, to the caboose, to the rest of the rail trail, up to the chess park, maybe at the library. The whole goal is not to have them zip through town, it's to, hey, stay, look around, see how nice it is here, see what we have to offer. And I'm talking too much, so I'm gonna stop now. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Buxton?
Yes, Kevin Buxton. I'm on the Historic Commission, I'm on the Trail Committee. If this project was going in a wetland, I'm also on conservation, but it's not going in a wetland. First of all, let me emphasize that if you stop at the Little Pocket Park, you'll find there's already a very beautiful historic granite bench placed there by the Morrow family to honor the history, 3 generations? 5 generations of the Morrow family who had a monument facility there. I look at the rail trail going in, great, but it's really just a thread in a pearl necklace if we do it right. Over the period of the next eons, there are areas all along that trail, the Pocket Park, various other areas where we can put a pearl on the necklace and really create something that's going to attract a variety of reasons. As far as the art, I have not actually seen the art. And let me just make one thing perfectly clear. Civic engagement is this. Civic engagement is not Facebook. All right? I'm actually here for the upcoming meeting. I'm glad I was able to give some input. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Is that how you do? Oh, Helen.
I'm sorry, John, sorry. I'm Helen Boyle. I sit on the Historical Commission. I'm the commission chair. I've seen the designs of the sculpture, and I think it's actually really pretty unique. And Southbridge is a unique town. So adding something that's unique and then adding it to the depot, the plans for the depot, and honoring our history of our soldiers leaving that depot, just honoring and keep building and honoring our history and trying to draw more people to Southbridge. It is a very walkable town. I am so sick of hearing the bad rep that Southbridge has, because it's not. I've been here 12 years. My own company planning to stay a couple of years and find a place, but I'm stuck and I kind of like it. So just being able to honor it and working with different departments and people and getting to know people in town and citizens and having that conversation and being able to see the difference that it's starting to make just over the last couple of years.
Councilman Antigone, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At first I did not vote to refer this back to subcommittee because I share a lot of people's sentiments here that, this had already been gone through a long process. But it is nice to hear the civic engagement. Maybe next time we can do it better, but I'll tell you, this year, after getting married, I did acquire a membership with my wife to the Worcester Art Museum. So I can really appreciate everything that everybody's saying here about how if Southbridge itself becomes a little museum along the rail trail, we can have different artists all along the way. And it's something that I didn't think of. I was already ready to support this because I know the hard work that you guys all put into this sort of thing. And I'm a big proponent of the chessboard too, if it gets there. But thank you everybody for coming to explain this, because it's clear the town shares a passion for this piece of art, and I'm sure we can get some more Southbridge history in there. I love Councilor Marquette's idea and hope it comes to fruition somewhere else down the line, but thank you.
Anyone else? Very good, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of a positive response? Those against? 2-2, there's no recommendation by the committee.
But it does go up to council on Monday night.
So it will appear in front of council with no recommendation from the subcommittee on Monday night, I believe. Right? Okay. Agenda item number 7, adjourn. All those in favor? Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? We are adjourned.